Hi, beloved. Always good to have a few moments to connect with you this way and to just share some thoughts and some updates about ministry at River City Grace. I want to read a passage from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 10. And it's a passage that really speaks to something I think every single one of us are very, very familiar with, namely the deadly danger of distractions. Let me read the passage, make a few comments that speaks to this very prevalent challenge we all face. So Luke chapter 10, verses 38 to 42. Now, as they went on their way, Jesus entered a village, and a woman named Martha welcomed him into her house. And she had a sister called Mary who sat at the Lord's feet and listened to his teaching. But Martha was distracted with much serving. And she went up to him and said, Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to serve alone? Tell her then to help me. But the Lord answered her, Martha, Martha, you are anxious and troubled about many things, but one thing is necessary. Mary has chosen the good portion, which will not be taken away from her. This is a wonderful scene, a sobering scene, an intriguing scene that's just kind of plopped here in the middle of the Gospel of Luke. And the details of it are quite evident. Jesus has come to the home of Mary and Martha is deeply concerned to want to serve the Lord and want to minister to him. And so she's very distracted with all kinds of preparations. And we can imagine the nature of that food and making sure the house is in order and somewhat clean and just making sure that things are the way she wants them to be to serve the Lord. Mary, on the other hand, of course, is just sitting at his feet listening to him. Martha gets frustrated at Mary. She appeals to the Lord, and the Lord very gently, lovingly corrects her and encourages her to understand that Mary has actually chosen the good part, the necessary part, namely to worship him and to sit at his feet and to listen to him. And we all can understand how easily Martha could be distracted because that is one of the defining realities of our lives today, isn't it? That we are so easily distracted by so many things. So many things that can press in on us from the outside, so many things that can come from within us in the distractedness of our minds and just situations, many good things, many hard things. There's just all kinds of things that can distract us from the simplicity and from the quietness and from the focus of worshiping Jesus and listening to Jesus. Now, there are many different ways that this can bear out in our lives on a day to day basis. Many different things the Lord, I think, would have for us by way of how we can cultivate a greater sense of being undistracted and being in His Word, being in prayer, being with His people. So many ways it plays out on a daily basis. But I'd like to just think for a few moments about how it even plays out in what the Lord desires for us when we gather corporately on the Lord's Day, on Sunday, as He has given and called us to on a regular basis. It's very easy for us, even as we gather, to yet be distracted by many, many things. And yet, if there is any time that the Lord would have us to be undistracted, it certainly should be when we gather on the Lord's Day. We all know that things press in and that things can fight us. And even for the time that we're meeting outside right now, just in the very nature of our gathering outside, there's the distraction of cars going by and sometimes people yelling things out or things that we see in nature outside. But I want to encourage us collectively to be working on gathering in an undistracted way. And we all have unique challenges in each of our lives, depending on our circumstances and situation, but to be making the most of prioritizing the Lord's Day. To that end, I want to just reference an article that would commend you. It's just a really brief little article on Tim Challies' blog. Many of you are familiar with Tim Challies. He's a wonderful Christian blogger who's just been a huge encouragement with all kinds of resources and insight that's very, very helpful. And if you're not familiar with that, by the way, his last name is Challies, Challies, and his website is just challies.org, challies.com, actually. It's .com, not .org. But there's an article that's from a number of years ago entitled Planning for the Lord's Day. And in the article, he's actually referencing a book by a friend of mine named Ken Ramey, a book called Expository Listening. And in that book, he has some encouragements about prioritizing and planning for the Lord's Day. Let me just mention a few of these items that he bullets out in this article. And again, this is Tim Challies making reference to Ken Ramey's book. A few specific things. He says, number one, make it a habit to be home on Saturday night. Number two, be careful not to do, watch, or read anything that will cause lingering distractions in your mind the next day. Number three, get things ready on Saturday night to alleviate the typical Sunday morning rush, such as laying out clothes, setting the table, writing the offering check. For those of you who have young ones, stocking the diaper bag, those kinds of things. Number four, get a good night's sleep so that you can be sharp and energetic to worship and serve God. It's hard to listen when you're nodding off. Number five, eat a simple but adequate breakfast that will hold you until lunch. It's difficult to hear over the grumbling of your stomach. Number six, work together with the other members of your family to get ready and to establish and maintain a godly atmosphere on the way to church. Listen to music, sing, and even pray together. And then number seven, arrive at church 10 minutes early instead of 10 minutes late so that you have enough time to find a parking spot, to take care of logistical matters, to find a seat, to interact with people. Don't rush in at the last minute or late, but get there early so you can kind of get settled and be focused. And so these are just very, very practical suggestions. And I would just encourage you to be mindful of these matters, to be prioritizing the Lord's Day, and to be striving to be as undistracted as possible. And certainly that should play out when we gather, just that the Lord might minister to you and that you might be fed by Him and strengthened in faith and strengthened in grace. We should be doing that as we're gathering, but also throughout the day and striving to be as undistracted as possible, that you might be genuinely refreshed, both physically and spiritually. Naps on the Lord's Day, not when we're together in the morning, but in the afternoon, naps are a great thing. Sleep is a gift from God. And so be encouraged in these ways, brothers and sisters. I know it's a battle for all of us. We all understand it. But God has so many riches to feed us with in Jesus. And our gathering on the Lord's Day is it is the central aspect of that, as it prepares us for heaven all the more and for trusting Him all the more. To that end, I want to encourage you that we are continuing to meet outside. And as we've been letting you know, for those of you who aren't as comfortable being outside, you can come still and be inside in our fellowship hall. We've got the big screen there so you can participate in the live stream that way, and then just at least be there to be with other believers. And we just want to encourage you to keep moving in that direction. And we see the value and the importance of all of that. We're continuing to do our equipping hour in the evenings on Zoom. So I want to encourage you to be a part of that, along with our monthly community groups, usually on the fourth Sunday month or Sunday night of each month. So I encourage you to be a part of that. As many of you know, this last Sunday we had a sack lunch Sunday. We're trying to resume that on a monthly basis. Really, any Sunday you can bring your lunch and just enjoy eating there. It's so beautiful in the lawn after our service. But in a focused way, just encouraging that on a monthly basis. We'll do it again at the beginning of April, which is also Easter. And so we encourage you to try to do that as well. We had a great time for those who were here this last Sunday, just enjoying food and interacting with one another. The last thing I want to mention to you is just encourage you to continue to be praying for the Smith family, for Laura and Ryan, and for Laura's husband Skip, and of course Ryan's dad. As you know, Skip was in this tragic and horrible accident a little more than 2 weeks ago. And if you've been keeping up with the emails that Missy and Bob Herguth have been sending out, Bob, of course, is Laura's brother. The situation does not look good at all from an earthly perspective. And even I talked with Laura this morning. It's Wednesday, by the way, Wednesday morning, March 10th, and spoke with her. And the plans were for them to take Skip off of life support today. And barring a sovereign and powerful intervention from God, there's every indication that Skip will soon be going to heaven to be in the presence of the Lord. So I know you've been praying. I want to continue to encourage you to be doing so for Laura and for Ryan as they walk through these things. Their church family in Southern California has been wonderful. Some folks from that church have been up and are even here now ministering to Laura and to Ryan, and just encourage you to keep them in prayer. Continue to, if you haven't already given to the offering that we're going to be taking, that we're taking together, the collection we're taking together, we'd encourage you to consider doing so, just as a means of blessing them financially with whatever added needs they may have during this time. And so there'll be information in the newsletter regarding that. So keep these things in prayer, and we'll continue to keep you posted. Richest blessings to you. May you know the joy of the Lord, the peace of the Lord in fullest measure in all he's given us in Christ. And we'll talk to you again. Bye bye.